Live. We are live. All right. This is Marnie, Midas Marnie, and today I have a very special guest with me, Pablo Gonzalez of Bitso down in Puebla, Mexico, right? Did I say that right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Awesome. I had to I had to practice that a little bit. Pablo and we met at the International Money Transfer Conference, and it was very exciting to hear about what they're doing down in Mexico. But first, the way that I always like to start off is to hear, how did the people that I interviewed, how did they get involved with Bitcoin? What really excited them about Bitcoin? So take it away. Tell us exactly what it was for you that engaged you and thrilled you about Bitcoin.
All right. Well, thanks, Marnie. So yeah, the way that I got into Bitcoin, it was 2 years ago, and actually my current partner right now, our CTO, he was the one that introduced me to Bitcoin and told me about it right away. The idea just clicked, and I thought it was really interesting. So as always, I hear about something and I go back and I Google it and I do my own research. And as I was doing just researching, back in the day there wasn't as much information and as there is today about Bitcoin, and I just realized that it was just such an excellent alternative. And from doing that research, I started to delve into other topics like how the money works, how many other things work that I never really uh, thought about, to be honest, because my background's actually creative. So I used to be a creative director for an ad agency, one of the leading ad agents in the world for doing video game marketing materials. And so I just got so obsessed with finance and how money works, how like the comparison between that and Bitcoin, how it could do many things. And my obsession was just clearly the technology more than like speculating with Bitcoin. So once I started to think about the blockchain and the possibilities that it can offer and the way that it is changing the world and will change the world, and our everyday lives are going to be different because of this invention, that's when I noticed, like, that's it, like I need to start putting more attention into it.
I'm in, right?
Yeah. And yeah, well, you just notice it's a one-time, like once in a lifetime invention. Maybe we'll see this once or twice in your life. Something so relevant.
I remember the days when the internet was just starting, and it feels just like that time all over again.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
back at that time, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happening again. It's happening all over again. It's like #2. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was one of the first people in Mexico to use the internet. And
Awesome. I knew you would be. Somehow I just knew that.
no, well, I was pretty young at the time, and my dad was teaching at the university here, and he was good friends with a guy from the computer science department, and they just installed like the first server in Mexico back in the day, right? In that university, and he was just trying to figure it out. And I remember being at this guy's office because I would go hang out and just talk about technology, right? When I was really interested about that, and ever since I was a kid, I always tried to deconstruct things and figure things out. And I was trying it out, and I didn't understand what was going on, to be honest. But I knew it was something really powerful. So it does feel like that. I mean, I wasn't in the early days of Bitcoin, but when I started, it was certainly more like the internet. Like the first experience of using Bitcoin. It was very similar to my first experience of using the internet. And when I was able to log into my first website, or no, it wasn't. Websites weren't even existent at the time. I think received my first message. Uh, it just felt like the first time that I used Bitcoin. Like, whoa, like what's going on? This is magic, you
It is.
know.
It is
So,
magic
uh,
internet money, right?
yeah, yeah, it just feels like magic. So, uh, I mean, I think you were able to download some little games and send some messages, and when I used the internet then. So it was really interesting what's happening now.
It's
And
the parallels, absolutely. So
yeah,
you are the CEO of Bitso there. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing because it was really engaging to me, especially when you talked about the ability of, remittances, global remittances.
yeah.
That's an area that's really, really interesting to me. And I think something that Bitcoin can really, grasp. So tell us a little bit, like as an overview about Bitso as an exchange or what people can do on Bitso, and then kind of tell us a little bit about how, people might purchase Bitcoin in America and then send money and have them able to get it through your, exchange down
Yeah.
there.
Well, maybe like this is a good segue of why Bitso,
Yes.
because why Bitcoin it kind of goes into why Bitso. So when I was in Vancouver, I joined the Bitcoin Co-op, the Vancouver Bitcoin Co-op. We did a point of sale coinos.
That's I remember that's why I liked you so much because I'm Canadian
Yes,
and you were in Vancouver. That's right. I'm like, yay, another Canadian.
I lived there for 11 years, so I'm permanently in Mexico now. But yeah, no, one of the things about Canada, like stuff is happening in Canada. Like there's so many cool and innovative Bitcoin uh, proposals and startups and meetups. There's so much energy in the Bitcoin space. And ever since, like a year ago, I realized that, like here, you meet so many interesting people, these bright minds coming into the Bitcoin space. And yeah, we would meet for the co-op. We did a bunch. Like we had onboarded about 80 merchants in Vancouver to like use our point of sale and do a lot of education. Putting like the conferences that they would organize. So I just saw that, and I'm like, I was looking back at my country, at Mexico, and I'm like, that stuff is not yet happening there. And I'm like, this is behind. And when I know of Bitcoin, I know it's Bitcoin's gonna happen, and it's gonna be that thing. And if it's not Bitcoin, it's something that comes from Bitcoin. So the evolution of Bitcoin, right? So
Absolutely. And you want to be one of those early adopters, one of those first movers, because the first mover advantage is pretty significant.
yeah, exactly. But and not only that, but I want my country to be one of those early adopters. You
Absolutely.
know? And I'm looking at my country and I'm like, what's going on? There's no Bitcoin economy happening. There's a few miners, there's a few communities, a Facebook group with a few users, but nothing compared to what I was experiencing in Vancouver.
Right.
So, and yeah, we were gonna put some ATMs down there in Vancouver back in October, and uh, and then I just saw, like I said, we need to do something to spread the word of Bitcoin in Mexico and the opportunities in Mexico with Bitcoin. They're actually, like I always said, developing countries have more to gain from Bitcoin than developed countries.
Absolutely. I agree with you 110% there. I think that as an ability to be able to actually move money globally inexpensively and especially to, countries where they get hosed by the money transmitter companies like
Yeah.
Western Union and MoneyGram, and there's too much margin in there for them. I understand they have to have some margin, but there's just a little bit too much in some of those
It's
companies.
too much, and it's because there's so many middlemen.
It's true.
That's why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
We we're doing a bunch of remittance for like a few remittance projects, and we've crunched the numbers a bunch of times to see if it's actually cheaper to do remittance with Bitcoin. And
That's
right now
awesome.
it's about
Tell me more about that. We want to know about that, especially up here. There's a lot
okay.
of people, especially here in San Diego. I know tons of people who have family back home in Mexico. Tell us.
Yeah, well, there's people actually doing remittance right now with our platform. So they would probably buy Bitcoins in Coinbase or Bitstamp or local Bitcoins or whatever, however they're mining them.
Right?
And they send the Bitcoins to our exchange. They buy them there, they send them. 40 minutes later, for confirmations that we require for exchange,
Mm-hmm.
they're able to sell the Bitcoins and we do a SPAY transfer, which is a Mexican bank transfer
Right.
that's super fast.
Awesome.
So, and yeah, we've been able to do like there's a few people, but they're very tech oriented that are currently doing remittance.
That's
So,
wonderful.
and going back to that, so right now I say and well, actually, the people like Bitcoin in Mexico is about 1% more expensive than in the US
Uh-huh.
because the market's just starting and getting created. And
Right.
brokers are starting to appear. We have a CoinCove and CoinBatch. They're brokers and there's ATMs happening. We have an ATM in Puebla, for example.
Oh,
And
great. What kind of
yeah, the
ATM
market's starting to appear. Sorry,
What kind of ATM is it there?
it's a Lamasu.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's Lamasu, and you can see in our Tumblr. I can post a link afterwards. Some of the
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah, absolutely. We can put that at the bottom of the video when we're done today.
Great. So yeah, things are starting to happening now, and the Bitcoin price, the markets are starting to stabilize as we get traders doing
I
arbitrage.
noticed that. Yeah, yeah. Although last night I made 4%. I was stoked about that.
Nice.
4%. Woo!
Well, market's been a bit it's been a bit crazy the last few days. So no,
Yeah,
but
I don't want it to be too stable because I'm an investor and I do swing trading. So I'm like, no, you go
uh,
up and down.
well, we're an exchange. If it's stable, we get less volume.
I know, I know. It's kind of
It's good for us
I
for the
know.
market to be
Okay, but
a
it
bit
is
crazy.
still relatively stable. It has been relatively stable. And I think actually the true value, if you look at what happened originally, we were at about 600 right before China came in. Then, of course, China doubled that, right? But then
Yeah.
when we fell, we stabilized again pretty much, and we have been stabilized at about 600. So I think actually the true value of Bitcoin is actually around 600 because we've hit that so many times. And unless
Well,
like good news, bad news, but it always kind of comes back to around six.
yeah. Well, around six with the current people that are in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah,
So the value of Bitcoin might be about 600 with the current
correct.
players. But as
Absolutely.
more users come in,
Oh
the
yeah,
value of Bitcoin should be higher than that,
yes, and we
right?
like
So that's the
that.
idea. That if you divide the amount of money that there's in the world, and if everybody's using Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin is not even going to matter, and it's just going to be insane. So it's very dependent on, yeah, the view of the Bitcoin, the good news, the bad news, but I think it's more dependent on the amount of people using the system.
That's great. So so what do your customers look like so that we can help you find more of your customers in Mexico?
So my customers right now are early adopters. We have a lot of miners.
Mhm.
I would say most of the miners in Mexico, and that are selling Bitcoin. So that's our sellers, and we have a few people that are first-time users. So like most sellers are coming back, and all the new people come in, buy their Bitcoin, and then they might buy a bit more Bitcoin later on. But and in addition to that, we have some day traders, which is great. That's just starting to happening recently. We've been open for 4 months, so day traders are awesome. They're online like 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, and
I know.
yeah, it helps us. Uh,
Sometimes.
Nice, yeah, you're guilty of charge. Nice. So yeah,
I'm not so bad because I'm not a day trader. I'm a swing trader. So, my
yeah,
trades last a few days most of the time.
nice. So yeah, no, it's a wide variety of users, but we want to go more, hit the mainstream market, hit businesses. We want to be able, only like remittance, it can go the other way around. It can go with businesses that are doing a lot of importing, and they need US dollars, for example, or they can
Okay.
pay their things in Bitcoin. And so there's many ways we can go about it, but right now it's mainly consumers, traders, first-time users, and there's a few uh, people that have been involved in Bitcoin for a while. We also have a bit of so I would say about 80% of our markets in Mexico, and then we actually have about 20% of our market in other places of the world. So it's quite exciting to see people trading with the Mexican peso that are
Yeah,
not Mexican.
absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the things about the exchange, when I was looking back at Mexico and looking at the Bitcoin economy, my partner and I realized, like, if there's no strong bridge from pesos and Bitcoins, there's no way for people to convert them quickly and easily into fiat or
Yeah.
the other way around, then like other Bitcoin businesses are going to struggle. So if we want Mexico to be a strong Bitcoin economy, we need to have an exchange that is able to connect people, like remittance projects, with brokers, with traders, with and not only that, but like other, like even manufacturing companies, artisans that are doing exporting of, like they can now do global business. So
Absolutely.
this for us, it's a hub to connect all these different things, and obviously remittance in Mexico, uh, it's pretty big. The unbanked, if we're able to, 7 out of 10 Mexicans in Mexico do not have a bank account. So
Yes.
when that happens, you right away cut off from global commerce. Like you can only commerce, like trade or do business, as far as your physical
Your
reach can
cups.
allow
Yeah.
you. But then with Bitcoin, boom, like that's it. They can do, like an artisan doing copper pots can export them to Europe, get paid in Bitcoin, and so it's very exciting, the potential for Bitcoin in Mexico. And the
So
third
if
thing,
somebody was for instance, like you say, it's an exporter from Mexico, that you can help them get set up with a merchant account down there in Mexico, like through you, so that they could accept Bitcoin.
that's what we're doing. So they can
Great.
accept Bitcoin,
Okay.
and they can choose to get pesos.
Okay.
So they can
Or
accept
to
Bitcoin.
pay in
Once they get the
Bitcoin, right?
Bitcoin, it does an automatic conversion, or it keeps them in Bitcoin, and they can play the market if they want, or use the Bitcoin later once there's broader merchant adoption in Mexico. So yeah, that's the exciting part, is that it's a clean playing field, and as being the first exchange in Mexico, we've learned so much about the market. It's very different than Canada, and we're making tools more specific to Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very specific. And I'm so excited and I'm so happy that you're there. I understand, being a pioneer, it's kind of like they talk about the arrows in the back from the
Yes.
pioneers, or being out on the bleeding edge. It's a difficult place to be, and people don't realize why the early adopters, it's such an advantage to be an early adopter, but at the same time, it's tough, hard work.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
hard work.
you set the precedent for everybody else, and everybody else kind of dovetails in on you. finding out how did you do it and everything, right? But
Yeah,
that's why I'm always championing the pioneer and the early adopters because, you know, people like you, people like me, we're the ones who work hard to make it something into the world, to create it, right?
yeah.
And I love that spirit. Absolutely love that spirit.
It's funny because being that pioneer in Mexico compared to Canada, for example, when I was in Canada and we were doing all these Bitcoin things, I would tell people, oh, we're doing these cool Bitcoin things, and just random people, and they're like, oh, that's great, awesome, right? And they know what Bitcoin is, or they've heard about it, or they have a vague idea.
Right.
And here I'm like, oh, well, I have a Bitcoin business, and people are like, well, what?
What?
And they never even heard the word, and the ones that have, they've only heard the Mt. Gox story, or that the Bitcoin CEO committed suicide.
Oh God.
But it's part of the job, and it's part of the beauty that we educate people as well, because we have to do a lot of education in order for promoting adoption, especially mass adoption. I'm
Absolutely.
going to universities, I give talks about Bitcoin, and it's pretty exciting to, like once you're explaining, to see the look on people's like faces when they have that aha moment. Like,
When they
oh,
finally have that Bitcoin for that first moment, it's like, oh, wow.
yeah. And one of the best ways, it's gifting a lot of Bitcoin.
Hmm.
That I find gifting a lot of Bitcoin. It helps a lot with that education, and if you have to
Absolutely.
give them, it's so useful when they actually have it and they're like, oh well, it's so simple. They need to know the whole thing, and it's just so
Exactly.
cool.
Are
So
there
yeah,
any wallets, or do you like forgive me for sounding like a moron because I don't know what it's like in Mexico. I don't even know if there is an iPhone store or a Google Play store. So what are the wallets that people can get down there?
they're the
Just
same. They're the same. So like yeah, on the Google Play, on the iPhone store, you get the blockchain one or Mycelium. I really like Mycelium, by the way.
yeah,
Uh,
mycelium.
well,
I've heard a lot of good stuff about that.
the guys from Airbits we met, their wallet looks amazing.
I
So
know,
I really can't wait for the Airbits wallet.
I know. I'm so excited about that too. I got to have them. I'm waiting for them to release the wallet to have them back on our show again. They're right here in San Diego, so I see those guys all the time.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, one of the things with the Mycelium wallet, well, with these wallets, is that they're all in English. So I mean, there's a lot of people in Mexico that do speak.
That's what's my question is. So I noticed your website is in Spanish and as well as English. But
Yes.
are there any wallets, Bitcoin wallets, that are in Spanish?
Blockchain does have like localization for multi-language, and
Okay.
they do have Spanish version. It's a weird Spanish though. It's like, yeah, yeah, it's like a Spain weird Spanish. But it's nice.
Right.
I mean, it makes things clear.
Well, so that's an opportunity for somebody to go and create a Mexican Spanish Bitcoin wallet, right?
Yeah, well, one of the companies that's doing really interesting stuff with that is Pademobile, and they are a mobile wallet.
Uh-huh.
Traditionally, with you would charge funds from your credit card, and you can go and pay in 7-Eleven and a few places, and it's great. Like their service is awesome, and they added an exchange app, so you can link your wallet to their mobile wallet with real
Uh-huh.
money, and that's all in Spanish, and it's very creative for the Mexican market. So, but you need to have an existing wallet and then link it, like at Coinbase or something like that. But it's really interesting because I think what they're doing for that wallet, it's a wallet for the Mexican market, and I mean they're also in the U.S. and in Spain and stuff like that. But They focus a lot on Mexico.
That's great. Good, good. So
So,
if I had, what would I do if, because I know, like I said, I have some people watching who live here in San Diego and would love to be able to send money to their family. What would their family have to do? Let's say, for instance, if they were in, would they have to be in Puebla, or could they be anywhere in Mexico? Tell me what they would have to do on their end.
so right now, as we just do bank wires as a cash out,
Okay.
but we're implementing other services for cashing out.
Mm-hmm.
So we're currently integrating with the ATM providers. We're integrating with with a few other people so that people can go and do cash out actual cash without
Mm-hmm.
needing to have a bank account.
Okay.
Uh,
Or what if they did have, let's say, like you said, if they had that Mexican bank account, what would they do there?
oh, okay, it's very easy. They would just need to make an account on our website, verify.
Uh-huh.
We require verification,
Right.
like KYC and anti-money laundering. Actually, Mexico is very strict on anti-money laundering
Right.
from the HSBC thing, and the rules are very strict about that now.
Right.
But so well, they have to verify it. It takes 2 seconds. We make the process really easy,
Good.
and once they've done that, they just need to give them their Bitcoin address from Bitso, receive the Bitcoin, sell them, make a little bit of money selling them because our Bitcoin is just a bit pricier because there's more demand for Bitcoin than people trying to sell Bitcoin. And so they can actually make a bit of money doing remittances by right now because of the demand for Bitcoin's greater.
Well,
And
I am definitely going to tell my Mexican friends.
yeah, and then they get the money, they get the Bitcoin, they sell it on the exchange, they request a bank wire, and we process it same day. If it's before 5 p.m., because the bank system works till then. It's actually a great system, the bank wire system in Mexico. It's one of the best, and we process our withdrawals within an hour. So they have their money within an hour,
Wow.
which compared to other exchanges, it takes 3, 4, or 5 days, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Up here in America, yeah.
Yeah, like another thing we have that's really cool for cash in, we're able to take payments in cash up
Uh-huh.
to like $500 worth of cash
Uh-huh.
in 7-Eleven, Walmart, Oxxo, which is a really big chain in Mexico, like a 7-Eleven. There's like 1,300, like 130,000 locations where you can go deposit cash to your Bitso account. And so
Wow.
basically, if you live on a city, you would need to walk about 2 blocks to be able to deposit with cash on Bitso. So
Wow, that's
that's
awesome.
it's pretty
We
exciting.
can't, we can't do that here in America
Well, maybe we need to move to America as well.
because you guys are better than us. We can't do any of that here, you know? That's all we have is online. We don't have the ability to walk up and put cash in unless it's an ATM.
Yeah, well, like right now, yeah, unless it's an ATM, yeah. So right now it takes about an hour for you to, well, some of them are instant actually, some stores. You go put your cash, and as soon as the person in the cashier goes enter, receive, your money shows like 2 seconds after in our
Wow.
Bitcoin. So we have all that system automated. So there's
You
really
guys
cool things.
rock.
Now, and we're trying to implement more systems like that. Like try to get, it's all about facilitating the way that fiat can go in and out
Yeah,
because Bitcoin's so awesome, it just works.
yeah.
So we just need to facilitate that other one. And once we're able to do all that and have enough people on our system moving back and forth and like this hub where connections happen, things like remittance can be awesome because you can actually send more volume and get it converted to pesos.
Yeah.
Right now you can send a good amount, but if it's a Western Union doing remittance through Bitcoin, which they're not gonna do because they're too slow and they'll disappear. So, but uh, it couldn't take the amount of transactions yet. So that's why we need to develop the Bitcoin economy with the community, with the businesses, with the startups, in order to have.
We're not even hitting the amount of transactions that we could do on Bitcoin yet. So we don't even need to worry about that stuff. Let's just fill up what we got now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do, but it's very exciting, and it's very
Exactly.
exciting when it clicks for people, and that's one of the things that I love
That,
because with this business, like I love having a business that's trying to do something good for
yeah.
people, and that it's actually can change many lives. Just going back to remittances, for example, uh, the average is about 9.3%
They're
to
in Mexico?
to send money from the U.S. to Mexico.
Wow.
And some of these immigrants are working double shifts and things like that, and
I,
don't get paid that much, competitive salaries, for example. And then they send this money, and 10% just goes because they move the money, and I think that's a
it,
crime, to be
it's a
honest.
crime. It is. It's a crime. You know, it frustrates the living daylights out of me that is the situation, that the people who need the money the most have to pay the most, and that's like something that I feel absolutely passionate about in Bitcoin. Is, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, because I want to be involved in that, in helping people that need the money to get the money, right?
Yeah,
They're sure, people in the middle can make a bit, but they don't necessarily need to make so much, right? And
yeah,
we
exactly.
cut that down and then just, use computers to make things faster, then I think everybody really in the end is going to win, because if people in general have more money, right? The economy, it works better, you know? And I want to see more people having more money rather than just a few people having a lot of money.
Yeah, it definitely levels the playing field. So yeah, it's just a great thing, right? The way that it's corruption free. It's
Yes.
based, like it's not hierarchical. Like all these things are awesome. Like talking about corruption, that's another thing that I am very excited about Bitcoin, because if it's something that bothers me, it's corruption, and I've seen it happening in Mexico. I mean, it's better now, but something like Bitcoin can help eradicate corruption. When you start looking at some of the other applications, and that's going to be huge. That's going to give so much more capital that gets lost on corruption, on doing things that are actually productive to society, and that's for me that's pretty exciting. How it can promote transparency and all these different things. So that's something that, like, it's one of the other ways that this is going to change the world, and it will eliminate a lot of tasks that are not, or jobs that are not producing to society, like people involved moving money, or like there's so many tasks that.
Yeah, when I mean, if you look at technology, right, and the whole thing about technology, this is what I do on the other side of my work, is I build online workflows, right? And if I can take a workflow that is 25 minutes long now, right?
Yeah,
25 minutes, and I can make that workflow 5 minutes. I've now potentially saved that company millions of dollars, depending on how large that company is, right? And
yeah,
so the same thing, it's the magnitude of scale when you consider that if we use, the Bitcoin technology to cut out all of those middlemen with regards to costs, right? And now we have the money flowing a lot more freely and a lot more rapidly. Because money is best when it flows, not when it gets stuck in places, but when it actually moves through the economy, that's when it's the most healthiest. And yeah, just excited to be part of that, and so grateful that you guys are doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. No, it's thanks for yeah reaching out. One of the things about those jobs that are repetitive and that I just can't stand is notaries. So
Yeah.
in Mexico, there's so many notaries, and there's for like almost everything you do, you need to go through a notary so that it seals whatever you're doing. And the type of commissions that they get just to put a stamp on something is ridiculous because and everybody's trying to become a notary. Like all these lawyers, they're applying to become a notary, and generally it's something that it's because like notaries are giving the license to become a notary either by a political favor or it's a family business that their dad was a notary and their grandfather was a notary and all that, or it was a favor, like, or some of them, yeah, they were probably very good and they actually fought for it, but like I could guess that 80% of them they're there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Just for putting a stamp, they're taking 5% of whatever you're doing or 4%. It's just ridiculous for an hour of their time just because they got a political favor 10 years ago. So those people
So
need to be
they
like that job needs to
take
be
a
eliminated.
percentage of what you're doing rather than just like a flat fee.
Sometimes it depends, like, but let's say you're doing a startup and you're gonna make a startup where your capital is $10,000.
Uh-huh.
They will take $500 plus like actually make it like just $500 to stamp.
Yeah, see, stuff like that it does, it feels criminal, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah, and
And
we're in the 21st century, and I mean, I understand it when people didn't know how to write, for example, and you had to have somebody educated to put something and make it official. But right now, it's just like a job like that doesn't make any sense,
yeah.
and it needs to be eliminated, that job,
Well,
from the
you
world.
watch. I am going to post it later on, probably on this weekend. I interviewed Paul Snow, and Paul Snow has a really interesting project called Notary Chains that he's working on right now. So I'm sure I'll send you a link to that after I've posted it, because
I,
I
I
think
I think I read a little bit about it.
you'll find that interesting, I'm sure.
So it's one of the things that I'm most passionate about, why Bitcoin needs to happen, is
Yeah.
because of those things need to disappear. They're just giving faith to something, and it can be done with technology and with Bitcoin fairly easily. So yeah, I'll check out the project. I think I heard something about it.
Good, good. Well, I
Nice.
really appreciate you. Our show went like double the time that we normally do, but
Oh,
it,
sorry.
it was valuable and really super interesting. I am so glad that we had this chance to get together. And, as things go on, maybe we'll have you on, as some of these other projects that you're working on with Bitso come online. Let's get together again and chat about it again. But I really appreciate your time today. It was a lot of fun, and I'm proud to support companies like yours, that companies that have a conscious, right, and are in Bitcoin for the right reasons rather than the wrong reasons.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's the idea, right? So yeah, we need to work to make it happen. And thanks so much for having me on the show.
You bet,
So
you bet. I'm gonna pass it around to all of my Mexican friends here in San Diego, and tell them to go down and see you guys.
well, and we have an awesome referral program.
Oh, really?
So
Okay, good.
they can actually make some money by referring Bitso to people. So they get 10% of the profits that we make. The
Sweet.
people doing the referring get 10% of that.
Wow. Okay. Well, I am going to talk to you more about that. That's for sure.
Yeah. All
But
right.
thank you
Great.
for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Talk to
Great
you
chatting with you.
soon. Bye.
Bye.